Shalom, Mishpaka. Shalom to Yasharal, to the 12 tribes of Yasharal on this Yom. Worldwide, shalom to the older brother, Yahudah. Shalom to the younger brother, Ephraim. Shalom to the stranger or the ger who has enjoined himself to us and even on this Yom has thrown down his or her idols, has forsaken the lies of his or her fathers, and has come out of the swine, has come out from amongst dogs, and who has even on this Yom engrafted themselves into the Bayif of Yasharal, whereby now they are no longer considered a ger, a stranger, a goyim, a goy, but are in fact considered a fellow citizen of Yasharal, and whereby now they are now privy to the same covenants, the same promise, and the same inheritance that was given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. Shalom, shalom to you worldwide on this Yom. Mishpaka, I just want to come on and make a quick video and talk about the season that we're in just for a little bit, to talk about this specific season that we are in. Many call it the season of lights. You know, people have lit up their houses, and people have lit up their asharim and or their Christmas trees with lights and placed a star atop of it. Some have placed stars atop of their homes along with lights. You drive through downtown areas and they are lit up with lights, and park areas are lit up with lights. And so this season is affectionately called the season of lights. The season of lights, supposedly to represent the light of the world, Yahusha, who had come into the world. But if you're walking in truth, you know that's not true, because you know that Yahusha didn't come into the world in the wintertime. He was born on the first day of Sukkot and circumcised on the 8th day of Sukkot, which happens during the fall, specifically the 7th month. The 7th month on YAHUAH'S calendar. And the 7th month on YAHUAH'S calendar, by the way, is not July, but nevertheless. So supposedly, you know, the lights are representative, or they are there to represent the light of the world, Yahusha. But if you're walking in truth, you understand that this is false. You understand that this is false. So I just want to come on for a few moments and talk about the season of lights, and talk about this season of lights. And I want to go back to the very beginning. I want to go back to the very beginning. I want to go back to Barashif. The very first chapter, the beginning. In the beginning, Barashif means in the beginning. I want to go back to the very beginning. And I want to begin reading at verse 1 of chapter 1 through verse 5. And I'm going to expound a little bit on that and then move on. But it reads here in Barashif, Genesis, the first chapter, verse 1 through 5, in the beginning, YAHUAH'S created the Shamayim and the YAHUAH'S. And the YAHUAH'S came to be formless and empty, and darkness was in the face of the deep, was on the face of the deep. And the spirit of YAHUAH'S was moving on the face of the waters. And YAHUAH'S said, "Let light come to be." And light came to be. A point of note here, Zion, is that when YAHUAH'S declared, "Let light come to be," and light came to be, this was before he created the sun and the moon and the Chokabim. So this was before any of that. And so here, YAHUAH'S makes the declaration, or he commands the light to come to be, and light came to be. So there was light But this was, again, prior to the creation of the sun and the moon and the Kokabim. And it goes on to read, and Elohim saw the light that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. What I need you to understand, Zion, if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, or if you are someone who is new to watching, let me retract that. Let me refrain. They're not my videos. They're YAHUAH'S videos. They're his. You are his subscribers. You are not my subscribers. They are his videos. He is the one that speaks through me. He speaks through me to make videos. Nothing I do is of my own, so let me correct that. But if you've watched any of the other videos that YAHUAH has made through me, one specifically talks about this in that when it reads here in verse 1 of Barashif, it says, in the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the Arets, and the earth, the Arets, came to be formless and empty. It came to be formless and empty. Thus, it was not always formless and empty. It came to be in that state. There was something that happened that caused the earth to be placed in a state of formlessness and emptiness. It came to be in that state. If you've watched the previous video, then you understand that the earth was previously occupied. It was previously populated, and Hashatan, our chief adversary, the chief prince of the Arets, was formerly a Kohen. In fact, he was Kohen Gadol. He was high priest. If you read YAHUAH'S, Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, it describes him as a high priest because he wore the breastplate of a high priest, and he walked in the very presence of Yah. He mediated. He was in the very presence of Yah. He went in the presence of Yah to mediate on behalf of those who were supposed to worship Yah. But instead of directing that worship to Yah, he then intercepted that worship for himself, and he became puffed up. He became prideful. Thus, he wanted to exalt his throne above the Most High Yah. This caused a rebellion to take place. This caused a rebellion in Shamayim to take place, where he caused a third of the messengers in Shamayim, who are called Kokabim, who are called stars. He caused a third of them to rebel against Yah. And as Yahushua declares in, I believe, the 10th chapter of Lucas, he says, behold, I saw Shaitan fall from Shamayim like lightning. And so this is when that took place. This took place before the garden, Zion. This took place before the garden. And when this battle took place, when this rebellion took place, this caused the earth, the Arets, to be placed in a state of formlessness and emptiness. And thus, there was only darkness on the face of the Arets. There was only darkness on the face of the Arets. Now, there is a difference, again, as he separated the darkness from the light. There is a difference between darkness and light. There is a difference between darkness and light, as there is a difference between day and night. There is a difference between darkness and light. Darkness is representative of evil and sin. Day is representative, or light is representative of good. It is representative of good. Day or light is representative of righteousness. Night is representative of evil and or unrighteousness. And so at this point in the creation story, there was only darkness on the face of the Arets. and it was formless and empty. There was only evil or unrighteousness on the face of the Eretz, because a third of the Malachim, messengers in Shamayim, had been cast down to the Eretz, and because they had transgressed the command of Yah, they were now unrighteous, and unrighteousness or darkness filled the Eretz. And at this point, we see that YAHUAH'S, once again introduces himself to the Eretz. He is the eternal light. And so Yahuchanan declares that he dwells in unapproachable light. He also goes on to declare that YAHUAH'S is light. He is light. He is an eternal light. He dwells in light. He is light. No man can see him. No unrighteousness can see him, because that light, the eternal fire, the eternal light of Yah would consume us, because we are wretched, encased in this wicked flesh. Thus, when he reintroduced himself to the Eretz to begin the creation story, or to recreate the Eretz, because again, the earth came to be formless and void, he reintroduced himself. He reintroduced his eternal light unto the Eretz, and thus he separated himself, his eternal light, from the darkness that was already on the Eretz, which were the messengers, which were the fallen messengers, which was Hashatan, the chief messenger, who was previously a Kohen Gadol, and the third of them that he convinced to rebel against Yah. This was before the 200 watchers left their abode to come down and sleep with human women. The 200 watchers were placed there to watch over mankind and to protect them from the third of the messengers that had fallen prior to the creation of the garden. They were placed there to protect mankind, but instead of protecting mankind, they came down and slept with human women. This occurred during the time of Yarad. Yarad's name means to descend or come down. And so during the time of Yarad, or commonly called Jared, this is when the 200 watchers came down and began to sleep with human women. So that was further along in the story. Those 200 watchers are now being held in chains and bound in darkness for 70 generations. But a third of the messengers that rebelled against Yah remain on the Eretz. I need you to understand that context. They remain on the Eretz. And this is what Yah separated. In the beginning, he reintroduced himself and introduced light, introduced his eternal light, introduced Torah upon the earth, and separated that from the wickedness, the darkness that was on the earth, via the third of the messengers that had fallen, who had rebelled with Hashatan. And so here he separates the light from the darkness, goodness from evil. He called the light day, and he called the darkness night. He called the darkness night. I'm going somewhere with this, but bear with me. I am going somewhere with this, or Yah is going somewhere with this. I want to bring you now, I want to focus your attention on Yahuchanan, or commonly called John, the first chapter. And I'm going to read verse 1 through verse 9. And it reads, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with YAHUAH'S, and the Word was YAHUAH'S. He was in the beginning with YAHUAH'S. All came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from YAHUAH'S, whose name was Yahuchanan. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, the true light." I need you to understand that and bookmark that. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. What true light is Yahuwah referencing here? What true light is he referencing? It reads in the very beginning here that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was Elohim, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. I need you to understand that the word here is Torah. The word is Torah, and Torah is light. In Proverbs, the 6th chapter, the 23rd verse, it reads, "For the command is a lamp, and the Torah a light, and reproofs of discipline a way of life." Dawood, his servant Dawood, tells us what the word is in Tehillim, in the 119th chapter. The word, he says, the word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. The word is Torah. Torah is the word. They are synonymous. It is the same thing. Thus, in the beginning was the word, was Torah. And Torah was with Elohim, and the Torah was Elohim. Torah is the light. He was in the beginning with Elohim. He all came to be through him, and without him, not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life. Life is Torah. If you read Torah, you begin to understand that, because Musha utters these very same words. He says, choose today. Choose life, life and death. Choose life that you may live. Obey the commands of Yahuwah. Obey the Torah so that you may live. Torah is life. Thus, in the living Torah, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. Torah is light, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Darkness being unrighteousness, being evil, the same darkness that was in the Eretz in the very beginning when Yahuwah hovered over it and then separated himself from it. Separated himself from it until the end. And so they have been given autonomy. They, as the fallen ones, have been given autonomy over the Eretz until the end. Until the end. This will make sense as we go on. And the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yahuwah. The one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light. He was not the living Torah, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. This is Torah. This is Torah. This is Torah. What I want to bring your attention to, Zion, with respect to this season of lights. Again, in the very beginning, there was a battle that had taken place in the Shamayim. A third of the messengers with Hashatan rebelled against Elohim, and this battle was so fierce that when they were cast down to the Eretz, and whatever life form was on the Eretz at that time, was subsequently destroyed, because the earth became void and formless and empty. And the Ruach of Elohim, it reads in the beginning, hovered over that darkness. He hovered over that unrighteousness. He hovered over that evil. And so they were already here. The third of them were already here. This is how it is explained that Hashatan was in the garden with Adam and Hua. He was in the garden because the battle had already taken place and he had already fallen from Shamayim like lightning. He was in the garden with Adam and Hua. He was already in the garden. Again, the 200 watchers, who are the fathers of the Nephilim, who came down and slept with human women and produced offspring, great giants, the Nephilim, who Hanok describes as 300 cubits or 450 feet tall. This did not occur until the time of Yarad or Jared. This didn't occur in the beginning. And so, again, those 200 watchers are locked up for 70 generations. But the third of the fallen ones were never locked up. Hashatan was never locked up. I also need to bring your attention to that in Hazum, the 12th chapter, it is declared, when it describes this story, this account, which is being spoken to you, that it declares that a third of the Chokabim rebelled against Hashatan. Chokabim translates into the false English word stars. That's a pagan word. It's a pagan word, but I'm only using that word for the purpose of teaching. So it declares that a third of the Chokabim fell from Shamayim with Hashatan. If you look up in the Adets, if you look up in the Shamayim Zion, you will notice that Chokabim emit light. They emit light. In fact, Chokabim that are in the Shamayim were created for the purpose of providing light on the Adets. No different than the sun and the moon. The purpose that they were created for was to provide light on the earth, was to serve the earth, to provide light. And so I need you to understand that these are Chokabim, that these are stars that fell from the Adets that emit light, that emit light. So where am I going? Where am I going? Or where is Yah going? Zion, there has been a false light that has filled the Adets. There is a false light that has filled the Adets, that has led mankind astray, that has led mankind into error. Scripture declares, the apocryphal scripture declares that when the 200 watchers descended, that they taught men all kinds of evil things. Just the 200. We're not even talking about what the third have done. But the 200 began to teach men magic and potions and cuttings of roots and abortions and astrology and the drinking of blood, and taught mankind war and the making of weapons and the beautifying of the eyes. Yes, they taught makeup women. The fallen 200 messengers, the 200 watchers, they taught women the beautifying of the eyes, because that is a tool of lust. That is designed to draw men to you in a lustful manner. And lust was introduced into the earth through them. Prior to them, there was no lust in the earth, because through their lust, they slept with human women and produced offspring. Thus, lust was introduced through them. Lust was introduced through them. And so they taught women to beautify the eyes so that they could lustfully draw men unto them. And so their offsprings, the Nephilim, were produced from lust. They are offspring of lust. They are produced from lust. And thus, when the flood waters came and the Nephilim were destroyed and their disembodied spirits remained, the disembodied spirits being demons, being wicked spirits, 1/10 of them remained on the earth, and 1/9 of them were locked up under chain in darkness until the end times. But these wicked spirits continue to perpetrate the sins of their fathers. And so wherever there is lust, wherever there is the drinking of blood, wherever there is abortion, wherever there's war, wherever there's any of these things, there is Nephilim existence. There is demonic existence that are continuing to perpetrate what their fathers started. Nevertheless, there is a false light that has permeated the Adets. There is a false light that has permeated the Adets. And this false light has seduced mankind into worshiping them as lights, has seduced mankind into worshiping them as lights. Thus, the Christmas celebration, Saturnalia, is all about the worship of a light. It is all about the worship of the sun, Saturn. It is all about the worship of the sun. Saturnalia, Christmas, is the birthday of the unconquered sun, the birthday of the sun. It is also called winter solstice. On winter solstice is the longest day of the winter. After winter solstice, the sun begins to reemerge and the days began to grow longer. And so they celebrate. They celebrate the rebirth of the sun. They celebrate the rebirth of Nimrod. They celebrate the rebirth of Saturn. They celebrate the rebirth of Moloch. They celebrate the rebirth of Baal. I'm only saying these names for the sake of teaching. This is what Christmas is all about. This celebration of light. The celebration of light. You see, idolatry or paganism is all about the worship of lights. It is all about the worship of the heavenly hosts. It is all about the worship of the sun, the worship of the moon, and the worship of the Kokabim. All of paganism is about this. All of idolatry is about this. It is about the worship of the lights that are in the Shamayim. That the fallen lights, the false lights, have deceived mankind into worshiping. The only way, Zion, and whomever is listening to this video, to counteract that false light that has filled the earth is to walk in the true light. You see, we serve a compassionate Elohim. And because he is compassionate, to counteract the venom of the serpent, the great serpent, to counteract his venom, to counteract his lies, Yahuwah has given us a true light. He has given us his instructions. He has given us Torah, so that if we walk in the true light of Torah, then we will not walk in the false light of the wicked ones. We will not walk in the false light of the third of the Malachim that fell and who have filled the earth with a false light. Further up, I mentioned that Hashatan wanted to exalt his throne above the Most High. You see, ultimately, through this false worship of false light, that he is being worshipped as the sun. He is being worshipped through Nimrod. He is being worshipped through Molech. He is being worshipped, through Saturn. He is being worshipped through Baal. He is being worshipped through Zeus. He is being worshipped through all of these false deities, while unsuspecting men are worshiping these false deities that can neither talk, that can neither move or talk. He is getting the worship through them. He is being worshiped as the sun because he wants to exalt his throne above the Most High. How so, you say? How so, you say? In the beginning, as Yah spoke through me, he declared that there is a difference between day and night. Day is representative of good and our righteousness, and night is representative of evil and our unrighteousness. He has given them dominion over the night. Thus, most of your demonic attacks happen at night. Most of them happen around 3 a.m. in the morning because these are what are called witching hours. This is when witches and demons are most active. And this is when their ritualistic sacrifices and sex worship occur around the 9th hour, around 3 a.m. They have dominion over the night for a season, for a short time. They have dominion over the night. Thus, there is a difference. There is a distinction between day and night. There is a separation between day, which represents righteousness, and night, which represents unrighteousness. The sun that governs the day is representative of the eternal light of Yah. It is representative of the eternal light of Yah. Thus, Hashatan, wanting to be Yah, wanting to exalt his throne above Yah, is being worshipped as the sun, the representative of the eternal light of Yah. The eternal light of Yah. And the only way to combat this false light that has permeated the earth is to walk in the true light. Yahuwah himself manifested himself. The word became flesh. The Torah became flesh. And he created a body for himself in the form of Yahushua. And in this form, he came as our deliverer. He came to teach us as the living Torah how to guard Torah. How to guard Torah. He came to a people who were immersed in false light, who were immersed in religion and the religion of the scribes and Pharisees called the Talmud, who placed the Talmud, the oral traditions of men, above the Torah of Yah. He came to a people who were immersed in this. By the way, the religion of the Pharisees and the scribes and Pharisees still exists. It still exists in the form of what the world calls Judaism. Nevertheless, he sent us the true light, the Torah, and he came as the true light, as the living Torah, to teach us how to guard Torah. And if we guard Torah, if we walk in the true light of Yahuwah, his Torah, we will not walk in darkness. We will not walk in the false light that has been unleashed upon the YAHUAH'S, that has been unleashed upon the YAHUAH'S via the third of the fallen ones, who has corrupted everything in this world that we see. They have corrupted everything in this world that we see. And the only way to combat that is with the anti-ventum by which Yah has given us, and that is his eternal Torah. His eternal Torah. There was a quote in a movie that I once watched. It was called After Earth. It was starring Will Smith and his son, Jalen. And Will Smith uttered something very profound to his son. Many of you who are walking in truth, you understand that movies are predictive programming. This is a tool of the elite, of the seed of Shaitan, to not only program mankind, because magic spells are being unleashed through these movies, and incantations are being unleashed through these movies, and demons, in fact, are being sent through these movies right into the movie theaters and right into your living rooms if you're still watching these movies. But they're also predictive programming to speak truth to the masses in the form of entertainment. And one of the things that Will Smith said, he said to his son, that was very profound. He said, after they had crash landed on Earth, he asked his son, he said, "Do you know where you are?" And his son said, "No." And Will Smith said this, he says, "You are on Earth. You are on Earth. And everything on Earth has evolved to kill you. Has evolved to kill you. And I say to you, Zion, and whomever is listening, that we are on Earth. We are on fallen Earth. We are on the fallen YAHUAH'S. And everything on this earth has evolved to kill us. Everything that you see has evolved to kill us. And the only way to avoid that death, the only way to avoid that eternal death, the only way to avoid the false light is to walk in the true light of Torah, so that we do not walk in darkness. Be wary of this season of lights. Be wary of the season of these false lights. I mean, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the banim of Yasharal, and I myself shall barak them. I mean.